everybody. It's Ed Rosenberg this morning. You know who I'm speaking to, Jeff Cohen from Seller Labs. Jeff, how you doing this morning?
I'm doing great, Ed. Thanks for having me. Ready to dive into some topics of mass confusion?
Yes. Okay, so I posted sort of just like a pointing out statement showing, I know that you're allowed to message asking for a review, and there was another page which pretty much said that you can ask for a review, but you can't email a review. I don't know how that
right.
So talk a little bit about that, please.
Yeah, so what you found was a video inside Seller Labs. I'm sorry, not Seller Labs. A video inside Amazon Seller Central, Seller University. And inside the video, it stated that you could message, and then it said that you cannot email within that messaging. And I think your post was actually a really kind of comedic post, and you were basically saying, we need somebody to, interpret all of this for us, because how are you supposed to message your customers if you're not supposed to email? And I thought your post was kind of funny, but I think the fear of our industry took over, and everybody read it and said, "Oh my God, I can't email my customers. What happened?" And it started to kind of create a life of its own. And what we did, because we like to just take a deep breath when those things happen, was we took that screenshot from the video and we sent it to our contacts at Amazon. And I think within a day, maybe 2 days, the video was removed because Amazon recognized that they were providing bad information and they were causing confusion in the marketplace.
Right. So essentially, nothing has changed the last 10 years in regards to that.
Well, I would say that that's a really good point, and it's one that a lot of people I don't know if I could say that nothing's changed in the last 10 years, but I would say the basis of the rules are still the same as they've always been. Maybe their interpretation has changed slightly, right? So, but there's still a lot of confusion. There's still a lot of confusion out there amongst Amazon sellers because according to our records, there were over 17 different pages on Amazon where you can get information related to buyer-seller messaging. And so we did a survey and we asked people all these questions about buyer-seller messaging. Can you ask for a review? Can you provide a coupon? Can you use suggestive language? Can you link them to certain pages? And what was really amazing was how many of these questions sellers on average got wrong. So when we asked a really simple question like, is it acceptable to email buyers requesting a product review? Over half of the people said no, they couldn't. When asked a question about including a coupon, over half the people said yes, they could. And so anytime you ask a question and half the people say yes and half the people say no, there's obviously confusion about what you can and you cannot do. And so we've just been trying to work to make sure people understand what you can and what you can't do so that you keep your account in good standing.
Okay, so you want to summarize what you can do in regards to giveaways and coupons from your perspective?
Yeah, so let's go through this really simple and quick, right? Amazon states that you can email buyers and ask for a product review. I'm gonna provide you a link that will give you all of the proof right from Amazon's website, so you guys can make your own interpretation. Amazon has said within there that when you message them, you cannot direct them to your product detail page. So where you need to direct them to is to the review page. Amazon doesn't want anything that's related to selling. So you're not sending them to a page to buy another product. You have to be sending them a page to write the review. Um, when it comes to coupons, you are not allowed to provide coupons for future purchases. That's considered promotion. And Amazon states within their terms of service that you cannot use these marketing these are not marketing tactics for market and promotion. Amazon says that there's a big debate about whether you can send one email or whether you can send 5 emails. To tell you the truth, I think Amazon is still very vague on this particular topic. There are several places in Amazon's text where they say you can send a message to a client. And so if we interpret the word a as being one, then you can send one message asking for feedback, one message asking for a product review. I would say that's still up to interpretation. So our recommendation is to only send one message. There's questions about whether you can use what we call suggestive language. This is the language that says, if you are happy with your purchase, leave a review. If you are unhappy, then contact us.
That's something that's changed.
That has changed, or let's say that has become more defined, where Amazon is now stating more clearly that you cannot use this type of language. And the language Amazon uses is, they say, a seller diverts negative reviews to be sent to them or to a different feedback system while requesting a positive review. Okay, so Amazon has a specific line in their terms of service or their guidelines that prohibits this type of action or language. I don't know exactly when it was added. So the next question was, if a buyer leaves a negative review, is it okay to resolve the problem and then ask for a new review? And the answer is that you can ask them for a review again, but you cannot ask them to remove the old review. Now, this gets really tricky because Amazon says, can a buyer change their review after an issue has been resolved? And the answer is yes. However, you cannot ask for that buyer to change their review. So I can just ask them, hey, if you enjoyed this product, please leave a review. But I can't say, if this product is now better, please write me a new review. So it's very careful in what your language has to be when dealing with something like that.
Then seller feedback, they allow you to ask them to remove the review, because that's what it says, that
you can't ask them to you can't specifically ask them to remove the review, but by asking them to write a new review, or by asking them to write a review, it will replace the old review.
No, but that's product feedback. I'm talking about seller review. To me,
seller feedback?
Yeah, seller feedback. To me, it seems like on the terms it says that if your buyer wants to if the issue was resolved and your buyer wants to remove the review, send them this link.
Yeah. So if they tell you, if you're in communication with a buyer and a buyer says, I want to do this, you can provide them the steps for doing it. You cannot encourage them to do it in some way, shape, or form. You can't say, if I've now satisfied your problem, please change the review. That's the big thing.
Right, but that's the product review. You can't change the seller feedback anyway. It's only removing it. So.
Correct. Yeah, and then the final one is that a lot of people are still doing this, but if you're still including links to third-party websites, all of those are now being email addresses as well. They're all being stripped, or a huge pop-up window comes up and says, warning, danger, you're about to leave this site. So understand, that's a really bad customer experience. So if you are using those, understand what that customer experience looks like so that you know what you're kind of putting your customers through.
Now, one thing what I think changed, like years ago when we used to have these discussions, Amazon we would look at the terms and this vagueness. I think we thought it was some kind of a plot to keep it open-minded. To me, it seems like it's not done on purpose, and they're trying to define it more specifically. Do you have the same impression?
Yeah, so we work with a lot of the different teams over at Amazon, and I've brought that conspiracy theory up to them that they want this all to be very vague on purpose to confuse the sellers. And one comment that was made to me that I think made a ton of sense was basically they said, "You're giving us way too much credit." To think that we've put that much thought and effort into it, you're giving us too much credit. And what happens is you have these different siloed teams within Amazon, and the Seller University is a great example of that. They're a siloed team within Amazon, and they have a goal of training new sellers to sell on the platform. And so they're interpreting the rules and the laws and the terms of service of Amazon while creating their material. They don't send it through every department to be validated. They create what they think is right and they post it. If you find bad information like that, and we shared it with the team that runs buyer-seller messaging, they were able to quickly correct that and have that video removed until that video gets updated correctly.
Right.
And so there's not a desire to create confusion. It's just a gigantic company that has a lot of different moving parts, and sometimes those moving parts aren't in sync with one another.
Yeah, so I came to that determination recently also as well. I actually think that these posts and these conversations that we bring up to them, they benefit the most, Amazon, because if this wouldn't be out there, then if you don't know there's a problem, you can't fix it.
Yeah, so I'm not going to take credit for this. I mean, maybe I will. I don't know. I guess I kind of am by saying I won't take credit for it. But we did our initial survey in July of 2018, and we shared the results with Amazon. And in a boardroom meeting with a group from Amazon, there was about 6 or 7 people in the room. I got the same results, 50-50 answers on the questions that I asked. And I said to the team, these are basic questions that there should not be any confusion on what the answer is. And everybody in the room agreed. And we have seen over the last 6 months that Amazon is getting more defined in what they're saying when they realize there's confusion in the marketplace, because Amazon doesn't want confusion. Buyer-seller messaging is like the number one section inside the App Store. Look at the number of buyer-seller messaging tools that are part of the App Store within Amazon. Clearly, Amazon doesn't have a desire to make all of these tools illegal. Otherwise, they wouldn't have put them all through a vetting process and told sellers, these are the tools you should be using. And so we have to kind of work as a community when there's false information in the marketplace to make sure that we're sharing the right information. But more importantly, we need to provide sellers with the documentation for them to make their own decisions on what's happening. And so many times as sellers, we watch these videos and we say, oh, well, Ed said this is this, or Jeff said this is that. I'm going to do it. And the thing you have to realize as an Amazon seller is you're responsible for what you do, no matter what we tell you to do. And so when it comes down to it, an Amazon seller should understand what these terms of services are and should understand what risk they potentially pose within their business. And as you know, from the risk suspension side of the business, there's different things that you do that have a small or a large side of risk. Buyer-seller messaging has no risk if you do it correctly. If you start to break the rules, you include coupons, you have suggestive language, you're messaging multiple times per message, you start to increase your risk. Having a package insert, there's nothing illegal about having a package insert. When you start to add your website, when you start to add an offer for, write a review, get free products, those are things that you do that start to make your insert potentially violate Amazon's terms of service. So the act of putting an insert into a package is not wrong or violation of any terms of service, but what you start to do with that insert can violate that terms of service. And so that's where sellers need to understand, what are the rules? What do I want to do? Just because your friend did it doesn't mean you should do it. And, understand what risk you're putting into your business.
Right. So one last question, Jeff. You're going to be at Prosper. You're giving a presentation, right?
I'm not presenting this year at Prosper, no.
Oh, you're not presenting this year?
No, not this year.
But
they cut me off after 3 years.
They cut you off after 3 years. Okay, but I'm going to see you, and I'm definitely.
I'll be at Prosper. Would love to stop by, have anyone stop by our booth or find me. I'm usually wearing this shirt. I have multiple. Don't worry, it's not the same shirt. And definitely looking forward to connecting with a lot of sellers at that show.
How many shows do you go to a year?
Well, I'm trying to cut back this year. This year, I'll probably be at maybe 10. Yeah. So, I always get to your show up in Brooklyn. It's a great conference, great networking. Prosper, IRCE are two that are high on my list. IRCE is now called Retail X. They've changed the name of that. Seller Labs does a show called Resonate, which is in May in Atlanta, Georgia. Obviously, I don't miss that one. And then I do some what I call like guru shows, right? So some of the other influencers in the space that have conferences around their communities, I attend those shows as well.
Right. Just we spoke a little bit about it before. How would you feel sellers are reacting to these events differently than a couple of years ago?
Well, I think that as sellers mature and as their company matures, they're looking for different things out of events than they were looking for before. And so an event either has to do one of two things. An event has to continue to market itself to a seller at a particular stage in the selling cycle, or an event needs to grow with their sellers as their sellers grow. And so a seller who's looking at an event like your event or my event, they might find what we call event fatigue after attending the event, that it doesn't meet their needs. But that's not necessarily a bad thing, because it might be that their business has just grown and they have different needs for their business. And that's why typically an event like ours is going to get like a 40% return of people from previous years and 60% of people new. Sometimes if you're, a stronger event, you might flip that and get 60% return and 40% new. And, a lot of times the value of the event is the networking. It's the people that you meet there, the time that you have to spend with them. Then I think content is next. Does the content do something to take your business to the next level? And then, are you surrounding yourself in a community that you identify with? And I think what's really cool about a lot of these events that are in the space is they're all built around different communities and different groups. And if you find yourself connected to a particular community or group, you hear me speak, you like what I speak about, you want to connect with other sellers who are doing $1 million or more in sales, my conference is a good conference for you. If you're more into retail arbitrage, my conference probably isn't a good conference for you, but there's a great conference down in Texas that's focused on retail arbitrage. And so there are a lot of events around the space. There's also a ton of information that's just readily available. I mean, go through your LinkedIn feed and look at how many people are posting content and information. I think that's changed in the last 2 to 3 years. It used to all be on Facebook and private groups, but now go through YouTube and see how many people are posting YouTube videos and Facebook videos and LinkedIn videos. And the massive content creation is out there, which is why I believe that shows are as much about the connections that you make and the conversations that you have than it is about the content, because you can absorb the content in other places.
Right. Well, there's some people have told me that, when they come to the event, they're welcome to learn. They take out a notepad and, I'm like that too. Like I do online shopping or I go to a mall, but there are a lot of people, I would say the majority who are not like that. They're not going to just watch an hour YouTube video, but they'll sit there at an event and listen to somebody.
Yeah, but more importantly, you sit at an event and you listen to somebody speak for 30, 45 an hour, and then you turn to the person next to you And what do you start talking about? You start talking about what that person just talked about on stage. You start talking about how that's going to affect your business. You start talking about the challenges and the problems that you have in your business. And so while what's on stage is really critical and important, what's really going to give you the value to your business is the conversation that you have during the breaks and at lunch and between speakers and things like that.
Right, and I'll leave with this one final thing. But I noticed you have all these communities that people actually. It starts off on Facebook, and people want to meet. It's almost like the reverse, and instead of getting to know you offline and then knowing you online, people know each other online on Facebook,
right?
On these different groups, and then they say, "Hey, let's go for lunch at Pastor."
Exactly, 100%. Well, I appreciate you having me on today. Hopefully, we cleared up a little confusion. We'll put the link. We'll put the link in the comments below so people can find that link if they want to see specifically where all of the stuff we talked about today is in actual Amazon, pages. And I'm happy to answer any questions. So I'll follow the post as it goes up.
Okay, thank you so much, Jeff.